gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get into we do so much foolishness on here that a lot of people forget. We sometimes educate, we enlighten, and we also pay respect when it's appropriate. And we're gonna do all that right now. I've had people say, I got my shirt and I clapped so hard and cheered so hard when they came to my house. You know,
my hands are destroyed.
I had so much fun.
I clapped so hard, my hands are.
I had no more flesh on the palm of my hands. I clapped so hard, and I got that classic black tooth white logo. Are people allowed to? I just want to get your permission. Are people allowed to clap at our show in Toronto when we go?
Yes, because it's a live show.
It's a live. Okay,
there,
so we can hear.
We're gonna hear.
Okay,
so it
all
means
right.
something.
So everybody, you have permission to cheer, laugh, clap, do anything.
Hey,
you want
no
to.
Cheering, just clapping.
Oh, just clapping. You can't have both.
Cheering's fun too. No, you can do all that because we're gonna be there and we're gonna hear what you're saying.
We're gonna be at the Adelaide Hall. I hope my baby will allow us when the doors open at 6 and the show starts at 7. I hope we can have a night
I hope Corey won't be late.
No, I hope we can have a night of comedy, games, and music. You might have to just pick one. you can't have all that. That's too much fun. Yeah. There's somebody who was, you know me with being in film. You know that I have to say I was inspired by this person early on. This person, I think, a little bit older than me. Oz, you might know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You might have heard this today, and it's very sad news for people who love film, who do follow film, who are lovers of film and know the history. What we have today is sadly the death of somebody, as I said, who was an inspiration to me. Excuse me, choking up a little bit, and that is John Singleton. John Singleton died today, was pulled off life support at the age of 51. He actually died of a stroke.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know. All these strokes going around. I mean,
yeah, man.
We just heard about Luke Perry. I think Luke Perry was around the same age, 51 or 52, when he had his stroke. And with John Singleton, his stroke is a result of, I believe he had high blood pressure. And in fact, people are even saying out there, like members of his family and other folks are saying, yeah, look, you know, the high blood pressure, the rate of that is high among African Americans, especially black men, and saying, please go get your blood checked out. All these strokes and hearing high blood pressure and everything, and me being a black male, and I'm 47 years old. Today, I just threw all the salt and alcohol out the house. I'm scared. We ain't going to be drinking, and our food ain't going to have no flavor for a little bit. I'm a little nervous. Started out positive by saying, please, 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 you know, if you feel like you're not taking care of yourself right, you might be a candidate for high blood pressure. Take care of yourself. This stroke thing is no joke right now. It's taking out young men, at least men who are too young to probably be going out by strokes. And with John Singleton has a lot of historic significance for film. Got his start at 24, just at 24, when he made his directorial debut, and for that film that he made his directorial debut with, the reason why he is having such historical context in film is that he was the first, back in 1992, the first black man to be nominated for Best Director. Now, he was also nominated from the Oscars, yeah. I like the way you added, like from the NAACP.
BET Awards?
Yeah, BET Awards.
Golden Globes, I don't know.
No, for the Oscars, yeah. Definitely for the Oscars. And at that year, I had to think about it, and I was right. That year, he had lost to Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs, who is also, unfortunately, sadly, is dead. Film got a huge standing ovation from the Cannes Film Festival. The movie was grossing more at the time per theater average than Terminator 2. And I know people like, damn, Corey, what movie is this? Some of you, I know you're young, and I wonder if some of you don't remember this, but at the time, Boys in the Hood made a huge impact on film.
Just goes on, you know. Don't care about what's going on in the hood.
You're my only son, and I'm not gonna lose you to no.
You know, this is a film where you saw some new faces. You saw Cuba Gooding Jr., I believe. You might have not seen him for the first time. I don't know, but I definitely know that this is the one that launched him into the mainstream. This is the one where we saw Ice Cube, the actor, being more prominent in film.
Morris Chestnut. That's kind of one of the driving forces to make people watch this because Ice Cube was in it.
Yeah, that's right. Because Ice Cube was in it. You know, he was on, especially when they like Boys in the Hood. A lot of people were curious if whether, this rapper could act. Young Morris Chestnut was in there. And with the movie Boys in the Hood, a lot of people. They when you think of Boys in the Hood, you think back to a lot of people think back to that one scene, Ricky.
That's it.
Ricky. Now y'all thought y'all were crying for some of the characters in Avengers Endgame, boy. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when they blasted Ricky in that alley. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s brother in the movie. Who got killed?
That was Ice Cube's brother in the movie.
I'm sorry, Ice Cube. He was Cuba Gooding Jr.'s best friend. Ice Cube was his brother. And they did not get along, but that was a moment where he was so sorry he never got along with his brother. And we all know, if you've seen the movie, that Ricky died as a result of gang violence in South Central LA. That's the one thing that a lot of people remember. And it's an iconic scene. It's amazing. But what I want to do is I want to talk about the relevance of John Singleton's films, also the role they play in cinema, not just black cinema, but in cinema, the role he played as a director in film, and also bring light to some people about some of the movies they might have either forgotten that he did, or some underrated films that should have been seen more, and a lot of people probably don't even know exist.
And do we have some movies that were inspired as well?
No, but I would love to hear some. When we wrap this up, because one of the things I want to say about Boys in the Hood, man, Boys in the Hood. And Oz and I were talking about this. Boys in the Hood kicked off, for better or for worse, a sort of a subgenre of film that was very prominent in the 90s, but it fortunately didn't last too long. It kicked off the hood movies, the gangster films.
Affectionately called hood movies.
Hood movies. and Boys in the Hood was kind of the catalyst for that. It kind of, with hood movies, they had important messages. They were films that were enlightening a lot of people to what was happening in certain parts of the country that a lot of people were either misunderstood or just didn't have any real experience from, or didn't know it was there because that was just not their life. It was one of those things where people say, those guys, those poor black people in the neighborhood, this was something that was getting people to look at it a different way. The thing with hood movies, Oz, and I'm sure you might agree, is that after a while, Hollywood, because it's not about the message, it's about their money.
Of course.
And if Negroes weren't shooting each other and wearing rags and in gangs, hanging out in the hood in these movies, then Hollywood they didn't really want to deal with it. Spike Lee, unless you Spike Lee,
Yeah, but even with Spike Lee, it was a case where, he was more, his message was very clear, and it was almost to a point where it was almost not false, but it was very Hollywoodish. These movies were very real, very street, very, the way people spoke back then. It wasn't glossed over. It was very real.
John Singleton made a film that made white people, it made white people sad and terrified at the same time.
Yeah.
It was almost like, oh, it's a shame the way they shot that boy, but damn, that's one less nigger on the street. Got to a point where they did become a cliche. Also to the point where like the Wayans brothers were making fun of them, how to drink your gin and juice in the hood without dying or something. But if you watch Boys in the Hood is still an amazing landmark film to this day. To this day, they talk about things that are so relevant right now that the worst that I can say about it is that it's sad because This is a movie that was made damn near almost 30 years ago.
And it's still the same.
And they're still talking. We still are plagued by some of the same problems that Lawrence Fishburne was trying to address in this film.
Which back then he was known as Larry.
Yeah, Larry Fishburne, before he became actor or thespian Lawrence Fishburne.
Well, he started eating crumpets and tea.
Yeah, back then he was just crusty ass streetwise Larry. Lanky Larry, what's going on? We just got through talking about things like today. It seems like gentrification is a big deal. It just seems like something that people are just addressing. Why? Because now people are actually, through probably something like the technology of the internet, people are able to kind of protest and attack and talk about in realistic terms straight on. Back then, gentrification, that was something that a lot of people still didn't realize. Larry had to actually educate the hood on gentrification and also how to not let the system be what these people want you to be, which is resulting in you killing yourself.
Why don't y'all take a look at that sign up there?
It's called gentrification. It's what happens when the property value of a certain area is brought down.
We need to keep everything in our neighborhood, everything, black. Black owned.
As you see him put them cools in his pocket.
Who is it that's dying out here on these streets every night? You have to think, young brother, about your future.
You know, it's a powerful scene.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and the only thing that it is sad, and it's sad because that's, like I said, that's a movie that's almost 3 decades old, and yet these same problems are still probably more prevalent today. This movie, at the time, in John Singleton, he was just to give you a little more background on it. With this film being again the landmark and legendary film that it is, almost did not happen the way we saw it. The studios, I believe, wanted to pay John Singleton $100,000 to sell it and have another director come in. And John Singleton was the one that stood fast and said, "Nah, this is my experience. This is where I'm from. This is what I'm trying to bring to the people right here." And he didn't budge on it until they actually let him have it. He didn't let anybody read it. From what I heard, he didn't let anyone read the script except for people he really trusted. One person in particular being John Hughes, the guy that did all the 80s teen movies, the fun teen movies like Ferris Bueller and 16 Candles.
Oh God, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know he worked. He was working on it and really crafting it. You know what I mean? But I didn't realize that he was very selective about who he let read it.
Yeah. After that happened, he was he was going on sets with Spielberg's. Everybody wanted to kind of help this kid. One of those that era of early directors where you had people coming in like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez, people like that, these young directors making an impact on film at the time. Only thing that went on with John Singleton that I could say with this film that might have had even a slight drawback is that everybody told him how much he had to say, and it's almost like he felt like he was the guy.
He was the message guy.
Something. He was the message dude. Yeah,
message
man.
Guy.
Everything I say gotta mean something.
That's what they're putting on Jordan Peele right now. Everything he does has to have a message on it.
Yeah, they when John Singleton came at the time, he was like, I'm the Moses of black people. I'm here to say everything he did had to have some sort of message. And I think he tried that too hard, man. He has not had a success as far as directing a film goes like he did with Boys in the Hood. But it was always ambitious, man. He's always doing something different with it. Like with Poetic Justice, the casting itself was interesting. Janet Jackson and Tupac, man. Tupac Shakur. But he really was trying to do something a little different where it was a love story. He's like, it's still going to be kind of a hood movie, but I'm going to try to tell a love story. And Janet Jackson was actually, she wasn't a rapper or anything. She was a poet. So, he was always trying to do something, but again, the movie was trying to do a lot of things with too many messages. He really fell victim to that with things like Higher Learning. I think Ice Cube was in that again. Omar Epps. That movie right there was trying to do way too much. racism on within white fraternities on campuses, interracial relationships, revisionist history, and people like, God damn, Negro, pick one.
I'm gonna do it all.
Yeah,
Or you need a show, a Netflix show.
yeah. This needs to be. You need 2 seasons of this right
For
here.
this, yes.
And these movies were not reviewed very well. They know nothing terrible, but always mediocre at best. That's why a lot of people were really relieved when he just said, they like, man, just make your money. Make your money, black man. You know, and, man, just go ahead and embrace Hollywood. It's okay to take a script. You ain't got to be deep all the time. It's all right to have some fun. Some people, you know, they said it was cool that he was doing that. Some people wish that he actually maybe was able to hone in his messages. He did some entertaining movies, some with so-so receptions. Four Brothers was one of the movies that he released at the time. Tyrese, what's his name? Tyrese Gibson. Yeah, Tyrese Gibson, Andre Benjamin, Garrett Hedlund, a very young Garrett Hedlund, and of course Mark Wahlberg. He was working. Look, everybody still wanted to work with him. It just seemed like the material was a little bit more, I don't know, shallow. But
yeah,
even with he went and did a lot of people forget he did a Fast and Furious movie. I think he did the second one, Too Fast, Too Furious.
I did forget that.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that he did that. There's been so, man, this thing is with Fast and Furious, now that they're going into space and fighting superheroes, a lot of people forget that they were kind of in the hood themselves too. So it seemed like, all right, you know, this is a glorified version of street life. It's more fun. Even then, it was said that, all right, you know, it's cool. Nothing too deep or anything. He's part of a franchise now. This is one of the, you know, a lot of people say that this is one of the kind of the weaker ones in the series.
That has to go to Tokyo Drift.
But Tokyo Drift is the weakest. But this is the one that they say, okay, this feels like a sequel. Tokyo Drift went all off track. They had that redneck in Tokyo.
Bow Wow.
Yeah, that Lucas Black and Bow Wow. Hey. Where all these Negroes come from? This is Japan.
Meanwhile, he's in Japan.
You're not supposed to be here, boy. I came here to get away from you. I think the movie that he did, where it caught everything where he was at least the fun side of it. The movie that I'm not saying the message guy, the deep John Singleton, but the fun John Singleton, that was actually caught perfectly for me. The movie wasn't perfect, but that sense was caught perfectly for me for the Shaft, the 1999 Shaft with Samuel Jackson.
Wow.
I got to tell you, man, I don't know, and it has a lot to do with the script, but he was good with these actors. He was great with these actors. Of course, he was working with great people. But I can say that, you know, it's probably because of him, John Singleton, that we got one of the great actors out there, Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright, who was very different when a lot of people were introduced to him. Of course, some people saw him in stuff like what's I forgot his name, and I shouldn't. The painter. You saw it, Jeffrey Wright. He's a painter. He does art. Basquiat. Yeah.
Oh, I want to know that.
He's like, shit. I don't with art.
Basket.
If it ain't comic books,
what's going on?
Jeffrey Wright played a basket for a movie that was kind of just an action popcorn flick. There are some great performances in this film.
You're a 2-bit, 3-block dope dealer. Stick to what you know. You ain't even a pig no more.
You think that makes me less dangerous or more dangerous?
Puta, why you flinch?
Now, I had to watch that scene. That's a great scene, man. He was great. He was great with actors, and like I said, that's the first time I really had seen Jeffrey Wright. I know some people saw him in Basquiat, but that's where you saw where that actor really had a lot of range. In fact, some people thought he was Puerto Rican.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
I don't know if you remember this. People still laugh about this movie. This movie where Tyrese is still living at home with his mama, riding his bicycle around the hood as a grown man.
Creator of the breakthrough film, Boys in the Hood, brings you a new look at life in the hood.
Tyrese Gibson playing just a black man child,
and he is a child.
And that was the thing about the movie. It was him with he had a kid and still lived at home with his mom. He rode a bicycle all around town and everything and Ving Rhames was like his the guy that was shacking up with his mama. And it was this
well,
movie.
that movie, he wrote that movie for Tupac, I heard, but Tupac passed away, so he, this guy did it. To Tyrese,
I say Tupac dodged a bullet. Because this was ridiculous, man. Life. Yeah, this is what they said. All right, you went just way too hood with this. This is crazy. Like you've been out the hood too long, man. I'm making up stuff, but this is one where it's it wasn't a good return for him. This movie did not get a lot of good reviews. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of black people are making fun of this movie right now.
It looks like his 5-year-old son and himself are brothers.
But yeah, man, but again, not for trying to get his message out there about still. Years later, a life that is neglected by the mainstream, and when they do take it, they kind of corrupt the message. He was still trying to represent. He was still trying to be real with this and get it back out there for people. But I will say that he came out with some surprises, man. And some films that, as I mentioned earlier, were overlooked, unappreciated. Some people don't even know that they exist. There's a movie that I can't even watch it again. I saw it in the theater. It just, and I know it's not great for a lot of people, black and white, but it's a movie that just it moved me so much, and it horrified me. It was Rosewood.
Right.
Was it truly a colored honesty?
If you find him, well, you know what to do.
The search for the guilty became a hunt for the innocent.
This movie is a horror movie for black people. Instead of a zombie attack destroying the city, it's just a mob of angry white people just hunting down black people and killing them because a white woman claimed that she falsely claimed that she was raped. Horrifying thing about that is based on a true story. I wish more people had seen this because this is an incident that really happened. It was a well-to-do black town, Rosewood. People were already upset to see black people have things that some of these things that white people didn't even have themselves that were well earned by the citizens of Rosewood, and they were just looking for any excuse to set this town on fire and lynch every Negro that they saw. And he's working with some great people in this movie. John Voight, as you can see, Don Cheadle. You know who he is, man. What's Carlos? What's the Star-Lord's adopted daddy? Michael Rooker.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Arcane. Michael Rooker, man. He got. I tell you, this guy was amazing with actors. Have you ever seen Rosewood?
I have not. I don't want to be sad.
Tell you what, go watch. Rent Rosewood or watch it or stream it or whatever, and then go watch Endgame to just get it out your system. Don't watch any. Don't watch Guardians of the Galaxy because it'll just be an alien racist that you watch with Michael Rooker. It'll be a blue racist up in there. A lot of people forget that he directed. Because when the movies kind of weren't coming as frequent, he directed a lot of things. Television. Do you know the video that he directed us?
Yeah, that was a big deal. The Michael Jackson one. Remember the Time.
Yeah, Remember the Times.
Yeah,
that again, working with a huge cast. I like Eddie Murphy's like, is nobody gonna mention that he just turned into sand? That was a fun thing about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, forget trying to be white. Michael Jackson just didn't want to be human. Michael Jackson wanted to be dirt. He wanted to be sand. He wanted to be gold. Michael Jackson wanted to be a panther at one time.
I guess those are the times like this kind of effects just started.
That's the time that Michael Jackson could only afford those things. Right. Now a 13-year-old kid can do that on a laptop. Michael Jackson just beat up somebody's car outside of a bar and turned into a panther and walked off.
The original Black Panther.
The original Black Panther, yeah. So I'm going down to Boys Town.
Like it's normal to have panthers on the street or something.
Yeah, he's on the hunt right now. But he continued to do a lot of television. Like when he wasn't directing movies, before he died, I'm sure he had some projects he wanted to do, but he was still doing television, man. doing some very popular shows. He was doing Empire on Fox and on Showtime. He directed some episodes of Billions. He wasn't behind Empire, but he directed a episode, at least an episode I know. Also, American Crime Story, working with Cuba Gooding Jr. again.
Oh, okay.
When Cuba Gooding Jr. was OJ, an American Crime Story. The thing that I guess his last big project was something called Snowfall, which was is about the early days of when crack cocaine started to be introduced into the lower income neighborhoods or the hood. Again, it's kind of I'm not trying to make anything deep out of this, but it's kind of funny how his career started with being in the hood. And now he's died with this last project that I believe possibly returning to the hood.
Any last words, just in case?
I'm here to buy. I don't sell coke to kids. What do you sell? I sell kilos to people with money.
Smart businessman there. Wrong business right here. No, that's 1983.
No fool. I mean, it just seems that his career wasn't where he wanted it to be as far as, that success of Boys in the Hood didn't translate as good as well as he wanted to, and it didn't give him as much longevity, I guess, as he wanted to. So at some point he just became, go back to what you know, right? That what got you on the first place. Go back to that.
Yeah. I mean, he had a good career. He worked. He worked, but it wasn't. He wasn't hungry.
It wasn't a household name like he was when Boys in the Hood came out.
Yeah. That you know what? You're right about that. He did seem to be. He wasn't John Singleton, the genius director that he was. He was exactly. John Singleton, the guy that you hired to do an episode, or the guy that used to do those movies. But it's that said, man. Say what you will about his career, but the accomplishments that he did make, especially with something like Boys in the Hood, that's gonna forever have a lasting impression.
Oh no, he definitely made an impact on cinema.
Yeah,
definitely.
He made history. He is the first black man. You will never take this away. He was the first black man to be nominated at the age of 24 for Best Director, even though he didn't win. I think that's a conspiracy, but no. Even though he didn't win, that is something that inspired a lot. Not only a lot of young black people, but that inspired a lot of young people. Period, man. There was so many people who were looking at different directors of different colors coming in. Robert Rodriguez being, a Latino director. John Singleton coming in being a black director. Everybody was loving this at that time, man, and they inspired a whole generation of people. I think it's sad that John Singleton's name is not brought up as much as some of the other people out there that, Kevin Smith motivated me. Robert Rodriguez, Richard Linklater, all these guys really inspired me. Do not ever forget how many people John Singleton also inspired in that group. 24 years old and made a huge accomplishment. That's why I stopped the show to do this, man, because the guy really did. I said, I got to say something, because as somebody who really loved film and was only like about 2 or 3 years younger than him, to whatever capacity I'm doing this stuff, that was a major influence on me. He's right up there with Spike Lee for me. And a lot of people don't give him enough credit. I would have loved to see where his career could have gone had he not been taken out so early by something so tragic as a stroke. That's why I had to talk about this too. Always remember this guy's work. If you love film, look at his work, know the impact, especially for you young brother out there. This is history now. Look him up, learn. And furthermore, if you're a young brother out there, take care of yourself. I'm telling you, if these strokes out there getting white people, they're going to get your ass too. So, and it's greater for you. Yeah, please, everybody take care of yourself, man. These
strokes don't got no names on them, son.
No, it's hard to hear about these people being so young, as far as these ailments being in their 50s, and me being 47 years old. It just scared the shit out of me. But yeah, man. Yeah, this is, I just wanted to bring some awareness to people out there. Check out some of these films. Thanks for watching. You're so amazing. Can you possibly be even more incredible? Yeah, you can. You can hit that subscribe button. And if you really love what we do, check out our main site, doubletoasted.com. Over there, you'll find a long-form, unedited, uncensored version of this video, along with the live streams that we do almost every night of the week. Support us at DTmerch.com, and remember to always stay toasty.